If you have an unquenchable thirst to crush your bucket list, relentlessly pursue your dreams, and live life on your own terms, then turn up the volume and tune in. You're now listening to Zeph and Moses Blacksburg on the Year of Purpose podcast.
This episode of the Year of Purpose is brought to you by our brand new book, Life Rescripted. Find your purpose and design your dream life before the curtains close. If you want to be the first in line to receive a free digital copy from me, all you have to do is head on over to www.liferescriptedbook.com to find out more. Hey everyone, this is Zeph and Blacksburg, and today I am joined on the Year of Purpose podcast by CLINT ARTHUR. And CLINT is a graduate of the Wharton School of Business. He's also the GKIC Info Marketer of the Year, a successful entrepreneur with 15 years of experience running his own gourmet food company, and the #1 best-selling author of Break Through Your Upper Limits on TV, Break Through Your Fear of Public Speaking on Local TV, and What They Teach You at the Wharton Business School. His famous personal transformation experiences, keynote speeches, and frequent appearances on network TV, iTunes podcasts, and syndicated radio shows inspire millions of people to live larger, more intensely, and with more impact on the world. And today he came back all the way from Waikiki to hang out with me for a little bit. How are you doing, Clint?
Donald Trump could not be doing much better than me, actually. I as much as I am unhappy that my 30-day vacation is over, I just came back from a 30-day vacation, and you can't be doing too bad when you're coming back from a 30-day vacation.
Right. Yeah, I'm a little bit jealous of that. I haven't taken a vacation that long since about December of last year, so that was when I did a 2-month vacation around the country, and it was definitely a blast. I didn't want to come home. But I'm definitely grateful to have you here today. And, the reason why I wanted to bring you on was I heard you speak at Angelique Ruer's event in Scottsdale this summer. And you told me a little bit of a story of your personal transformation. And so I was hoping maybe we could start there. And if you could share with the listeners, what happened in your life that has kind of brought you to this point.
Okay, well, I made the biggest mistake that any entrepreneur can make. And I tried to do something without being somebody special. And I know everybody's special in their own way, and we're each a unique individual snowflake and all that. But what I was trying to do was become a filmmaker and a movie star in Hollywood without being famous. And that is really, really tough to do. It's really tough to get cast for any parts, or get selected to do anything, or get investors to give you money for anything if you're nobody in Hollywood. And I didn't know that lesson, and I made that mistake, and that cost me 13 years of my life pursuing the Hollywood dream. And 6 of those years, I was behind the wheel of a taxi. And what made it all the more difficult for me was I'm a graduate of the Wharton Business School. And I remember one time I was out to dinner with my dad at a steakhouse in New York City. This is, probably 8, 9, 10 years into this whole ordeal. And one of his best friends comes up to the table at this steakhouse. He goes, look who it is. It's the Wharton taxi driver. And that was really, really painful. That was really, really painful because I felt like I had not just let down my dad, but I had let down myself and the many years of hard work and struggle and positioning that I had put myself through to get into the Wharton Business School, to get a 4.0 GPA in my entrepreneurial management major. It's like, I had such great opportunities in my life, and I felt like I had thrown them all away pursuing the Hollywood dream. And it came to fruition on New Year's Eve of the Millenium. I was driving a cab that night. I made $513. And when it was all over, I went back to my little boat in Marina Del Rey where I was living. No hot water, no running water, no toilet facilities, no electricity, no heat. And I'm in my bunk on the boat, shivering, and under my heavy down comforter, wearing all my clothes. And I just broke down crying because I felt like I was never going to be able to get out from the ditch that I had dug for my life. And that was the night I said, that's it. I can't take this anymore. I quit writing screenplays. I focused everything I could on changing who I was and how I was going to show up in this world. I got into the gourmet food business and slowly started working my way into that business and changing my life. And really, I had an advantage in that business that is essential for every entrepreneur. Now, I started this whole thing out by saying the number one mistake to avoid is not being somebody special. So what does that really mean? In entrepreneurship, as an entrepreneur, the most important thing you can do is be different than everybody else. Now, there's two ways to be different from everybody else. The first way is to have a unique product. If you have a unique product that nobody else has, that makes you different. Now, it's not so easy to have a unique product. It really isn't. Luckily for me, I had this super gourmet butter from the little tiny farm in the middle of nowhere. That was my product. That was my gourmet food that I was selling. And lucky for me, it was actually an amazing product. It was very difficult for people to get, and people wanted it because it was so special. Unless you have a special product like that, it is very, very difficult to be successful as an entrepreneur. The other way to be special as an entrepreneur, the other way to be different than everybody else, is to be a celebrity. And, as difficult as that may sound to a person listening to this podcast, it's actually easier to be a celebrity than it is to have a unique product, because celebrity can be manufactured with an actual formula. I've come up with an actual formula for how to create celebrity by going on TV news and talk show interviews. And it's amazingly easy once you know the formula to do it. And that's how I've been able to help about 500 authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs use my formula to create celebrity for their personal brand. You hear a lot of people talk about a personal brand, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, what does that mean? That means, what do people think about when they think about you? When your name comes up in an email, do they delete it or do they open it excited? And you have to get them to be excited about opening your email. That's a good personal brand. And unless you have a good personal brand, you're not going to be successful as an entrepreneur. So how do you do that? You have to become somebody special. The easiest way to become somebody special is to start going on TV news and talk show interviews about any topic, whatever topic, and get these people to start thinking of you as a quote-unquote celebrity, somebody who's famous, somebody who's a newsmaker. And if you can do that, then the whole world starts to open up for you. And that's basically been my journey. I started going on TV news and talk show interviews about 5 years ago. And since then, I've done more than 64 television appearances, including The Today Show, CNN, Headline News, a whole bunch of, NBC New York, CBS Los Angeles, ABC Chicago. And I started out going on little tiny shows, and I just worked my way up the old-fashioned way. I worked my way up. And that's what anybody can do. And that's really the most important lesson I have to offer.
And so it sounds like you really discovered quite some amazing things here. And in the process of that, you had mentioned in your story that on New Year's Eve was a night after many years of effort being put into, your potential future. I'm curious, I'll jump back to creating the celebrity in a second, but how do you know when to give up? Because there was definitely, year after year, there was an effort that was put into this. And so what was it that was different about this New Year's as opposed to, maybe a year prior or, perhaps waiting 2 more years to make that choice?
It's a great question. I think that it comes from the perspective of looking at your life on New Year's Eve. I really do. You have to look at your life in what Tony Robbins refers to as peak situations. When you're in a peak state. And when you're in a peak state, you have a different perspective on the world. And you need to have some kind of really powerful perspective so that you can see clearly what the hell is really going on. Because it's difficult. When you're in the middle of the storm, it's very difficult to see what's going on. And that's why, many times in my life, changes have happened for me where my whole destiny got altered on a New Year's Eve. That was one of them. Then we fast forward to 2000 and New Year's Eve 2009. New Year's Eve 2009, I was obese. I was quote unquote fat and happy, right? I've been married for 7 years. My marriage was on the rocks. My company was teetering because of the Great Recession. My body was in the worst shape of my life. I was 236 pounds compared to my high school wrestling weight of 145 pounds. So I didn't even realize how obese I was. All I knew was I could barely bend over and tie my shoes. And that's when I was at a men's self-help campfire, and the shaman on the other side of the campfire pointed at me and goes, "You don't even know it yet, but you're already dead." And I said, "What are you talking about, man? I'm the most successful guy on this team. 8 years ago, I was driving a taxi. Now I'm a millionaire. I was living on a little boat. Now I live in a mansion." He goes, "You're already dead. You just don't know it." And I was thinking about that. That happened like September, October 2008. And I was thinking about it for months after he said that. And it came to be New Year's Day of 2009. And that's when I decided, hey, if this was going to be the last year of my life, what would I want to accomplish? And once I started living my life as if it was going to be the last year of my life, that's when I was able to make the change. And it happened on New Year's Day. So again, one of those peak situations. And so the situation is this, what I would recommend to anybody who's listening to this show, if you're thinking about changing your life, why don't you try living your life as if you were going to die at the end of the year or at the end of 52 weeks and see what happens for you. That was such a powerful experience for me. I've done it 4 times. I've written a book about it called The Last Year of Your Life, which guides you through the whole process, lets you go. It gives you like all kinds of different exercises and experiences to try out so that when you're living the last year of your life, you can get a really full experience of it, because I've done it 4 times and I kept refining the process. I led my men's team through the process the first time. Then I did it with people around the world. Then I did it again with people around the world, that I recruited by going on TV and radio. So it's a very, very valuable and powerful experience. And I'm not saying you should quit your job. I really believe in straddling. I really believe in starting a business on the side while you're still an employee, so you don't run out of money and then you have to become a taxi driver or a waiter. I don't advise anybody to do that. I don't advise anybody to quit their big 6-figure job. Keep your job, but start something else on the side so that you could possibly be successful and get out of your job one day. But above all, I would say, hey man, ask yourself that question. If this was going to be the last year of my life, what would I want to accomplish? And write down the list of things that you would want to do. Like make a list of like 20 things you would want to do if this was going to be the last year of your life. And the best times to do this are either when it's New Year's Eve or New Year's Day or on your birthday. That's another really good time to ask yourself that question.
So it's surprising and it's not surprising to hear you say, about New Year's Eve, because for me personally, a lot of how this podcast started, a lot of where things started to click together in my life started were both out of my birthday last year when I went on a spiritual retreat, very similar quite possibly to your men's retreat that you had been on. And that led me to a decision where I was traveling around the country, couch surfing and travel hacking, and taking essentially a break from my life and my business to figure out who I was. And I actually came back on New Year's Day. And that's where I kind of had this epiphany that, I don't want to be that person who makes all of these New Year's resolutions and 2 weeks out of the year, I'm not even going to the gym anymore.
Yep.
So I'm a bit surprised that that we have both had experiences happen on New Year's, but I'm not surprised because it definitely is a time of year where you start to think about, yourself and what you're doing in life and where you're going. So that's really great to hear from you. And it's cool to hear that we can build a business what seems to be much easier than we previously thought, with what you were saying in either having a unique product or being able to create this celebrity factor. So I was hoping we could go into that a little bit, because this could be very helpful for a lot of the people listening in. And maybe if you could expand a little bit on, what it means to be a celebrity. I mean, does this mean I'm like Michael Jordan and I'm doing, Hanes t-shirt commercials? Or am I, Tiger Woods and doing golf and Nike commercials? What does creating a celebrity for yourself actually mean or involve?
Great question. So, look, there's never going to be any paparazzi camped out in front of your doorway. You're never going to lose your privacy. Celebrity that I'm talking about is a manufactured form of celebrity. And it's not easy to make it happen, especially if you don't know what you're doing. If you know my formula, and if you follow my strategy of starting in little tiny markets like Reno, Nevada, or Fargo, North Dakota, those are good places to start your pursuit of celebrity, because they're happy to have strangers from out of town come on and share their expertise. And you have to understand something. You talk about having a unique product. What do you think the product really is, man?
I would say it's probably you.
You are the product. That's 100% correct. Especially if you're in a corporate job right now. You're the product. You're providing a service to an employer, and the employer is buying your product, your time, your labor, your services, and you're being paid based on their perception of what your value is. So the best way to invest your time and effort is to improve the perceived value of your main product, which is you. That's the beauty of celebrity. It's yours. Nobody can take it away from you. I like to say, hey, you're a person right now. Once you've done 10 or 15 or 20 TV appearances, you'll be a different person. Once you've done 40, there's no stopping you. And I got many students who've done 40, 50 television appearances. And once you've done that many appearances, you become a different person. You have a different perception of yourself, and you have a different perception of you in the marketplace and what your real value is. I've walked into meetings and the person looked at me and they're like, wow, I Googled you and checked you out after we set up this meeting. I had no idea who you were. And I'm thinking to myself, who am I? Why does this guy think I'm so hot stuff? Well, it's because of all the TV news and talk show interviews. At that point, I had done like 11 interviews, and the guy said that to me. So far, I've done another 53 appearances since that date. So, the perception of me is way different. So how do you do this? Okay. It comes down to the fact that when you go on TV, you don't need a book. You don't need a product. It's better if you don't even have a product. You're much better off if it's all about one thing, delivering value to the audience. That's what this is all about. You want to go on a TV show, on a news or talk show, and you want to deliver 3 or 4 minutes of valuable information with a takeaway, something that the audience can take away from your appearance that day. So what do I mean by that? Well, I got this one client. He's a mechanic from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Auto mechanic. Now, he has his business, Elizabeth Auto Care, which is an auto repair shop. And then he also coaches auto mechanics on how they can make more money in their auto repair shops. So he's got 2 things going on. And as an entrepreneur, you got to have multiple things going on, because sometimes one thing is really hot and another time another thing gets really hot. That's the nature of commerce. Things change. sometimes one business is hot, and another time another business gets hot. That's why Google has like a million different divisions. So anyway, this garage mechanic, Dave Striegel, he started out doing TV news and talk shows in little tiny cities like in Kentucky and Illinois, little tiny cities, and he worked his way up to bigger markets like Las Vegas and Phoenix, ultimately to Los Angeles. And he did 2 TV appearances in LA. And all the while, his real goal was to become a speaker at a big auto mechanic conference in Las Vegas that's only held once every 10 years, called the Napa Auto Parts Conference or Convention. And because all along the way he kept mentioning Napa, and he kept sending the Napa executives who were selecting the speakers his appearances where he kept talking about Napa Auto Centers on TV news and talk shows, he was able to distinguish himself from the other auto repair coaches who all wanted to speak at this conference. And he was able to get 4 breakout sessions, each one with 450 attendees. And then he also got to be part of a 3-minute presentation on the main stage in front of 12,000 prime prospects. Now, it's really interesting because a lot of people listening right now aren't even going to care about what I just said. They're not going to be impressed because they don't know enough to even be impressed by what I said. But to get in front of even one audience of 450 people is not an easy thing, especially without paying for it. He didn't have to pay any money to get in front of those audiences. He just showed up and got to do his thing.
That's
in front of 4 of them. In front of 4 of those audiences. Now, for example, you and I met at a conference called the Inside Edge. The Inside Edge, there was only like 350 people there.
Yeah.
And that's a big conference that I was a speaker at. So it just shows you, like, in 1 year, my auto mechanic client, Dave Striegel, was able to do 12 TV appearances and use those appearances to leverage himself into a prime speaking position in front of thousands and thousands of prime prospects for his coaching services. His whole world was transformed. He became one of the most famous auto mechanics in America in a year. And that enabled him to accomplish amazing feats for his coaching business. So the point is like a lot of times you don't have to even go on TV for your main thing. Like sometimes I go on TV to talk about, like, one of my books that I wrote specifically for getting on TV is called The President's Code. And I created that book just to position myself to get on TV during the 2012 election. And that's how I broke into the #1 market in America, NBC New York. My first appearance on NBC New York was because of that book, The President's Code. So how do I make money with that? I don't. But there's 2 purposes for TV publicity. Number 1 is to create celebrity for you by going on TV shows. Any TV show, it just creates a special luster, celebrity for your personal brand. And the second reason is to help you get on bigger TV shows down the line. The more TV you do, the more TV you will do.
Right. So it's kind of like knocking over a smaller domino, and as it keeps going along, eventually it's going to hit the bigger dominoes, and eventually the really big ones fall. And it's a small step that you put into place, but it really pays off in the long run, because I'm sure a TV appearance has you, like you said, in front of 12,000 people. That can pay. Maybe the TV appearance, you can't necessarily correlate that to money coming in, but ultimately that's going to lead you to huge things. And I was actually surprised that you said you don't necessarily need to have a book to get onto a TV show. So I'm just curious if you don't necessarily have to go in with a book or with some sort of, previous celebrity status. What is it that the TV networks are gaining by having you on, or how is it that they become interested in you as a person?
You have to be positioned as a credible guest. So, for example, the garage mechanic, he didn't have a book. He was just an auto repair mechanic. What did he talk about? He talked about 3 mistakes to avoid when you bring your car in to have it serviced by an auto mechanic.
Gotcha. So it's pretty simple. And I guess you're only speaking for 3 or 4 minutes. So this isn't, for everyone listening in, this is not a 30-minute, you're sitting there trying to speak as if you were in front of a stage for people. It's a very small segment is what I'm hearing.
It is. It's only 3 minutes. Usually it's like 3 minutes tops. And it's not like you're trying to cure cancer or that you need to be a rocket scientist. A lot of times, the simpler your topic, the better off you are. Like this one. When he got on in Los Angeles, he was demonstrating how to change a tire.
Yeah, so I mean, it doesn't really require all that much. That's very interesting to hear. So
the book itself is created so that you have more credibility.
Right.
So, like, for example, if you're like a professor of economics at a major university, you don't need a book. You're a PhD in economics. You go on to talk about economics, and they say, here today to explain why the Fed did not raise the interest rates is economics professor from Cal Davis, Mr. Joe Smith. That's the way they would introduce you. See, what they're trying to do is they're trying to put a person on TV who the audience is going to want to watch. So how do they do that? They do that with their introduction, what the anchor or host says about you. Here today is the #1 selling platinum recording artist, Faith Hill. See how exciting that is?
Yeah.
Now, how do we make you sound exciting? Well, the easiest way to make you sound exciting is to say, and think about how simple this is. A Kindle book. For those of you who are not aware, you could publish a Kindle book with as little as 2,000 words in it. 5 pages, 4 pages of typed document could be a Kindle book. And now you can go on TV, and let's say your Kindle book is The Fine Art of Walking Dogs. Here today to talk to us about the mistakes to avoid when you're walking your dog is the author of the new book, The Fine Art of Walking Your Dog, which just came out on Amazon today. Think about all of the excitement that you were able to generate by publishing a 2,000-word Kindle book.
Which is crazy because it's like I could write that up tonight.
I know. And the only reason we have books is to add credibility. You don't make money off your book. Even if you have a giant best-selling book, chances are you're not going to make money off of it. I mean, let's count the number of people who have made money off their books. J.K. Rowling, okay, good. That's lightning striking. Literally, the lightning struck Harry Potter right on the forehead, right?
Right.
And then the other one is 50 Shades of Grey. Okay,
Right.
So that's in the last 20 years, those are the only authors who've made any money.
Yeah, I mean, those are at least the two I could only think of.
There are no more.
Yeah.
You don't write books to make money, unfortunately. If you do, wow, amazing. You write the book to create credibility. So, for example, one time I was at a conference. I spend a lot of money going to conferences, or let me rephrase that the way one of my mentors, and believe me, I invest a lot of money on mentorship, and one of my mentors always says, hey, it's not spending money, it's investing money in your education. Okay, I've invested a lot of money in education by going to seminars and conferences and events. And one of them I was at, it was like a $5,000 weekend conference. I spent $5,000 to go to this conference for the weekend. And I'm there. A big part of why I'm there is to meet other people who are $5,000 conference attendees. And I go out to dinner with a bunch of guys, and I'm telling them about what I do, about creating celebrity. The next morning, I get a text from one of these guys. He goes, hey, can we get together for brunch? Sure. I meet him in the cafe in the hotel. I walk in. He's got his iPad in his hand. I sit down at the table. He goes, hey, look what I'm reading. He's reading my book, Break Through Your Upper Limits on TV. 30 minutes later, he had signed my consulting agreement to be an $18,000 per year consulting client. That's the value of a book.
Yeah. So wow. I mean, I guess for anyone listening in, the book is not necessarily it's not to make money at all. I mean, you might make a few $100 here, maybe $1,000 here or there, but the book is leading to such bigger things, and that's so neat to hear from you. And it's really been great to hear your story. And I know that you have a great program that allows people to, or educates people on how they can create, this celebrity and really build a brand for themselves. If you wouldn't mind, Clint, if you could share how people could keep track of what you're doing and to learn more about what you do.
CLINTARTHUR.tv. Clint like Clint Eastwood. Arthur like the king. .tv, like I am looking forward to seeing you on television.
Awesome. Well, Clint, thank you so much for spending some time with me, and it's great to catch up with you. And I'm sorry you're back from Waikiki, but it sounds like you had a great time.
Thanks, man.
All right, have a good one. This episode of The Year of Purpose is brought to you by our brand new book, Life Rescripted. Find your purpose and design your dream life before the curtains close. If you want to be the first in line to receive a free digital copy from me, all you have to do is head on over to www.liferescriptedbook.com to find out more. I've discovered what I think is the world's most effective process to design your path in life. It'd be a shame if I didn't share it. In Life Rescripted, you will discover the #1 strategy for determining your life purpose and how you can start a new path today. The 5X life hack rule for accomplishing your dreams and designing your life on your own terms 5 times faster. The ultimate solution for fear and how you can leverage it right now to make this year your best year yet, and so much more. Reserve your spot in line to get a free copy at www.liferescriptedbook.com, and I will see you in the next episode.